Jake Paul suspended from boxing indefinitely after jaw-breaking KO loss to Anthony Joshua. Jake Paul's boxing career has taken another hit following his first knockout loss. The YouTuber-turned-boxer suffered a double broken jaw when Anthony Joshua stopped him inside 6 rounds last month. Since then, Jake Paul lost his controversial ranking with the WBA, which had him in their cruiserweight top 15. Now, the 28-year-old has been told he must sit on the sidelines for an indefinite amount of time. Jake Paul's boxing ban. On Sunday, the Florida Athletic Commission confirmed several medical suspensions stemmed from the boxing event in Miami on December 19. Jake Paul was hit with an indefinite suspension, according to a report from MMA Fighting. The 12-2 star cannot compete again until his jaw heals and he receives medical clearance from a physician. Former UFC welterweight champion Tyron Woodley has also received a medical suspension. The Chosen One will sit out for 30 days after getting KO'd by Anderson Silva inside 2 rounds. Medical suspensions from the Jake Paul vs. Anthony Joshua card. Jake Paul, indefinite suspension. Tyron Woodley, 30-day suspension. Camila Panatta, 30-day suspension. Yocasta Vale, 30-day suspension. Justin Cardona, 60-day suspension. Diarra Davis Jr., indefinite suspension. Jake Paul's next fight. Jake Paul has a major hurdle to clear to get there, but he's already thinking about his next fight. On Christmas Eve, Paul suggested his next fight could be against a former UFC heavyweight champion. "I told everyone that I would do better than Francis and that Francis got no chin," he said on Logan Paul's podcast. "Francis low-key soft. I'll fight Francis. Wow, that's a good idea actually. I think maybe now he'll take it." Adam22 explains why he is fighting Jason Love in bizarre celebrity boxing match. Adam22 has admitted that he is banking on 2 key factors when he fights Jason Love in about 3 years in the making later this month. The controversial podcaster will face adult film star Jason Love, real name Jason Thomas, in the main event of the first brand risk promotion show of the year in Miami on January 23. Adam22 is married to adult actress Lena the Plug, who shot her first scene with another man with Love in 2023. This led to Adam22, real name Adam Grandmaison, to be humiliated online and mocked across social media. But he gets the chance to get his own back in the boxing ring later this month against his longtime rival. Adam22 believes cardio and heart will win the day against Jason Love. According to a recent episode of his No Jumper podcast, Adam22 expects that he and Jason Love will both come in around 240 pounds for their heavyweight clash. Neither man has boxed before on any major platform, but Love claims to have trained and competed as a child. Speaking in a video on his Instagram page, Adam22 said, "By now, I'm sure you guys have all seen the news that I, Adam22 aka the 22ster aka the White Truth, am going to be facing Jason Love on January 23 in Miami. I'm very excited and I know what you're thinking, Adam, that sounds insane, you only have 3 weeks to get ready. Here's the thing that you guys aren't considering, I've been getting ready my whole life. I've been in the gym, I've been training. Listen, this guy Jason Love is big, he's muscular, he kind of looks like one of them Greek statues minus the whole African American part. But I've got better cardio, I think, and I've got heart because that dude Ed my wife. So when I show up in Miami for that fade, the same fade that a certain one-nubbed man wouldn't give me, just know that I'm out for blood, and I'm going to deliver it to y'all." Adam22 vs Jason Love undercard starts to build ahead of brand risk promotions fight. Usually, Aiden Ross likes to put on a massive main event for his brand risk promotion shows with an undercard of lesser-known influencers, streamers, and pros. But he is pulling out all the stops for this one, with multiple major names confirmed. After their first fight ended in a relatively comfortable victory for Scam Likely with Dana White watching on, rapper YK Osiris is back for a rematch. The pair have millions of followers across social media, and their rematch is expected to excite fans even though we likely know what's to come. Then in another intriguing clash, Aaron the Plumber leaves his Misfits boxing contract without having ever fought. He takes on K-Mac the Great in his long-awaited celebrity boxing debut. Andrew Tate's opponent Chase Demoer charging massive fee for gloves from infamous win. Chase Demoer is putting the infamous pink gloves he used to defeat Andrew Tate last month on sale on eBay, but it'll cost you a pretty penny. The reality TV star landed considerably more punches than Tate over 6 rounds, bloodying him and even sending him to the canvas, albeit not scored as a knockdown. Despite one judge scoring the fight a draw, Demoer did enough to score one of the most famous wins ever in Misfits boxing. Demoer is now putting the gloves that drew Tate's blood and arguably cost him his aura up for auction on eBay. However, you'll need to cobble together $10,000 to meet the initial bidding amount, which has only been met once despite over 32,000 viewers. Chase Demoer puts Andrew Tate fight gloves up for sale with $10,000 price point. Heading into the bout between Chase Demoer and Andrew Tate, much was made of the fact that the American would be wearing pink gloves. It was viewed as comical against the top gear Tate's masculine image, and contributed to his being a massive underdog. However, he proved the doubters wrong with a gritty 6-round performance after being forced to cut 40 pounds and having a rehydration clause slapped on for the fight. And he scored a memorable upset victory that sets him up now for some big nights. Unfortunately for Demoer, to the victor does not always go the spoils. And he didn't end up being paid the same as Tate, whose brother Tristan has estimated that earnings could reach $52 million for the event given his new role as a part owner of the promotion. Now, Netflix star Demoer is putting his gloves up for sale, with an astronomical starting price of $10,000. It took him over 25,000 viewers before one made a bid, but the action is now underway and fans have until Saturday night to get their hands on a fascinating piece of boxing history. The product is a limited edition collectible featuring gloves worn by Chase Demoer during his boxing match against Andrew Tate. The listing reads, "Still stained with Tate's blood. Perfect for collectors of Tate merchandise or fans of the sport of boxing, these gloves would make a special addition to any collection." Fans clown Chase Demoer over $10,000 price tag on Andrew Tate fight gloves. Despite Tate's myriad of issues that make him a problematic figure, Demoer found himself playing the heel throughout their fight build-up. And it seems that he hasn't won over the war room just yet, with fans roasting him in the comments of his announcement video. "The only way you will get any money from them is because it's part of Andrew," one fan of the influencer wrote. Clout chaser. This sentiment was echoed a few times, with another joking that the gloves are not even worth 10 cents. Daniel Cormier debunks claim Jake Paul did better than Francis Ngannou against Anthony Joshua. Daniel Cormier has made an important distinction between how Jake Paul and Francis Ngannou fought Anthony Joshua. Paul is a few weeks on from his second defeat in professional boxing and first time being stopped inside the distance. Eyebrows were raised when it was announced that the YouTuber-turned-pugilist would be fighting former 2-time unified world heavyweight champion Anthony Joshua, and many predicted a violent end to the American's winning run. That came to fruition on December 19 in Miami, where Joshua finished Paul in round 6 of their showdown at the Caesars Center. El Gallo took a victory lap for making it so far into the fight and surviving a few rounds longer than Ngannou did against AJ. Daniel Cormier rejects the suggestion Jake Paul fought better than Francis Ngannou. While Paul was stopped in round 6, Joshua viciously knocked out Ngannou in the second round of their March 2024 clash in Saudi Arabia. Although some have used that on-paper fact to suggest Paul did better than the former UFC champion, Cormier explained why that is not the case during an interview with Josh Thompson on Weighing In. "He ran a lot," Cormier said about Paul's approach against Joshua. "Here's the thing, everybody goes, even Eddie Hearn goes, well, he did better than Francis. I'm like, well, Francis didn't move around much. Francis thought he could actually fight him because of what he did to Tyson Fury, right? He couldn't," he added. Anthony Joshua was like, "I'm not taking any chances with this guy," so he fought him and took him seriously. But Francis didn't move. Jake did a good job of moving around for a long time. Why Francis Ngannou turned down the Jake Paul fight before Anthony Joshua stepped in. Ngannou was among the names being floated when Paul's fight with Gervonta Davis collapsed last November. The former UFC heavyweight champ was approached by the Americans' team about fighting El Gallo but did not even ponder accepting the bout. In fact, Ngannou suggested the offer to fight Paul was disrespectful. "There's no such thing happening," Ngannou told TMZ about the idea of him stepping in to fight the ex-Disney star. "Basically, how can they go from Gervonta Davis to Francis Ngannou? The weight difference and everything, it makes no sense. I wasn't expecting the offer at all. I'm like, no, bro. Come on. Don't disrespect me like that," he added. Mike Tyson fan spends thousands to have heavyweight icon follow him on Instagram. Mike Tyson is one of the most mythologized fighters in the world and is known to fetch massive sums for collectibles, meet and greets and live interviews. However, one fan has taken the cake by winning an auction for Tyson to follow him on Instagram, which set him back over $3,000. The boxing icon's autograph and memorabilia often show up on Goldin auctions, with this digital offering taking the cake. Goldin was also offering a chance to own the official contract for Tyson's memorable heavyweight showdown with Bruce Seldon. The document, signed by Tyson, Don King, Rory Holloway, and John Horn, made about that would become infamous as Tupac Shakur's final outing a reality. Mike Tyson charges fan $3,304 for Instagram follow. One massive Mike Tyson fan placed a whopping $3,304 bid last night to win an Instagram follow from the heavyweight boxing legend. Goldin Auctions put on the bizarre offer last night during their final 2025 auction and received 6 bids. It is unclear who the winner is, but he will be the 300th person to be followed on Instagram by Tyson, who currently follows 299. He will join a star-studded list that includes Joe Rogan, Dana White, Tyson Fury and Henry Cejudo. Tyson is currently preparing for an exhibition fight later this year against Floyd Mayweather. The pair are two of the biggest stars in the history of the sport and will compete at a combined age of 107, with the heavyweight claiming it will take place in Africa late in Q1. Tom Aspinall and Paddy Pimblett agree there is one fight the UFC need to make in 2026. Two of the biggest UFC stars want to see the promotion make one fight in 2026. UFC heavyweight champion Tom Aspinall recently linked up with Paddy Pimblett at his gym in Liverpool. The English fan favourites discussed Aspinall's eye injury and Pimblett's UFC 324 title fight on January 24. They also spoke about the fight, not involving them, that everyone wants to see this year. The fight to make in 2026. Tom Aspinall's videographer asked the pair for their thoughts on the fight to make in 2026. He said, "What is the one fight the UFC has to make in 2026, even if it's controversial?" Arman Tsarukyan versus back pain, Paddy Pimblett immediately joked. "I wouldn't mind seeing Conor McGregor back," Aspinall added. "Yeah, but everyone wants to see McGregor back." Pimblett said, "I'd like to see Michael Chandler get that fight because it was Allah on him, the fact that he never got it and sat out for 2 years. I'd like to see that fight," Aspinall agreed. Michael Chandler's update on Conor McGregor fight. A clash between Conor McGregor and Michael Chandler has been in the works since they filmed The Ultimate Fighter together in 2023. McGregor vs. Chandler was supposed to headline UFC 303 in June 2024, but the Irishman broke his toe in training and withdrew from his eagerly anticipated comeback. Iron Mike has fought and lost against Charles Oliveira and Paddy Pimblett since then. Meanwhile, the first dual-weight UFC champion has been handed an 18-month ban from the sport for failing to provide anti-doping officials with accurate whereabouts information on 3 separate occasions. McGregor's ban was backdated, meaning he will be eligible to compete again on March 20th. That's almost 2 months before he plans to return at the UFC White House card on June 14th. Nothing has been confirmed yet, but Chandler has never sounded so confident about fighting McGregor. "I will say it's gonna be a big year," he said on live TV during a New Year's Eve party hosted by the UFC's broadcast partner, CBS. Tom Aspinall reveals why a nightmare process dealing with UFC eye poke injury has taken so long. Tom Aspinall's UFC future remains uncertain. The reigning UFC heavyweight champion has been sidelined since a disastrous end to his first defense as undisputed kingpin. Cyril Gane poked Aspinall in the eyes at UFC 321 last October, resulting in their title fight ending in an anticlimactic no contest in round 1. Since then, the Englishman has been seeking medical attention on the damage he suffered from his French challenger's controversial fouls, and Aspinall recently revealed he will undergo surgery. Updates have been few and far between since the incident, but the champ says that is part and parcel of an eye injury. Tom Aspinall explains cautious approach to dealing with eye injuries as he awaits surgery. Aspinall still does not have a recovery timeline months on from UFC 321, which has resulted in talk of a potential interim heavyweight title fight between Gane and Alex Pereira amid the champ's absence. While speaking in a video on Paddy Pimblett's YouTube channel, Aspinall explained the lengthy time between Gane's pokes and confirmation that surgery is required. "It's been a bit of a long process," Aspinall said. "With other injuries, they just fix them straight away. With eyes, they try to let them, because it's obviously risky, they try to let them heal naturally. So we're getting surgery," he continued. "Keeping me out for a little bit, not sure how long. It's just been a slow process. It's been a nightmare, to be honest." Tom Aspinall is plotting revenge against Cyril Gane. While surgery and the recovery that comes with it means Aspinall is unlikely to return anytime soon, the Englishman is still looking ahead to his opportunity to make Gane pay. After dismissing talk of a forced retirement during a recent one-on-one interview, Aspinall outlined his plan to violently beat Gane when they run it back inside the octagon. "I'm not even thinking about retiring, because you've got to take one step at a time, don't you?" Aspinall said. "Obviously, the plan is to go back and beat the living daylights out of Cyril Gane, that's the plan. But right now, the short-term plan is to get back to where I should be and get back in the gym," he added. Paddy Pimblett reveals the one brutal UFC rule change he'd like to make. "I'm volleying them up." Paddy Pimblett has one massive rule change in mind for the UFC, and he wants it to be particularly violent. The Liverpool lightweight is about to fight for his first title belt in the promotion when he takes on Justin Gaethje for the interim strap at UFC 324. Both men are known for their exciting styles, particularly the American, who is within touching distance of earning $1 million from performance bonuses alone. And if Pimblett got his way, the fight could be even more fan-friendly and gruesome. He discussed potential rule changes in a YouTube video with Tom Aspinall, noting the one he would be particularly keen on if given a chance to take over the sport. Paddy Pimblett wants to bring back knees and kicks to grounded opponents. After Tom Aspinall suggested perhaps allowing an eye for an eye when it comes to eye pokes after his experience with Cyril Gane, Paddy Pimblett made his suggestion. He wants to bring back a Mark Kerr-style knees to the head, as well as soccer kicks, but would keep stomps banned. Asked what change he would make in 2026, Pimblett had his answer lined up as he replied, "Soccer kicks and knees to the head of a grounded opponent." After they laughed off the eye poke idea, he went into further detail. "I don't agree with stomping because your head's got nowhere to go," Pimblett noted. "But a soccer kick where someone is sitting in guard lets you move the legs and kick them there. Then knees to the head of a grounded opponent? If someone shoots a sloppy takedown just to get a break, you should be able to knee them in the head Mark Kerr style. I like the new rule where if your hands are down it's okay, but it's still a bit confusing." Aspinall noted that he is still so concerned with the wording around the knee rule that he just chooses not to knee anyone who even seems grounded. Pimblett disagreed, insisting that he drills it and is prepared for every rule set depending on where he fights in the world and the various commissions. Max Holloway bounced back from his Conor McGregor loss with this brutal knockout of the night. Max Holloway's legendary winning streak began 12 years ago today. Holloway is one of the leading fan favorites in the UFC and is among the greatest featherweights of all time, having risen to greatness after an inconsistent start in the promotion. Blessed went 3-3 across his first 6 fights after debuting in 2012. But after losses to Dustin Poirier, Dennis Bermudez, and Conor McGregor, Holloway kicked into gear in a major way. On this day, January 4th, in 2014, the Honolulu native rebounded from his decision defeat to McGregor with a vicious display in Singapore. The win would turn out to be the first of 13 in a row for the UFC legend. Max Holloway knocked out will choke to claim UFC Singapore's knockout bonus. UFC Fight Night 34 was the promotion's very first event in Singapore and was headlined by former Strikeforce champion Tarek Safadin's decision win over Lim Hyunju. Among the card's most impressive performers was Holloway, who topped the prelims against Will the Kill Chope. It was the then-future featherweight champion who lived up to his opponent's moniker by swarming him with punches for a vicious second-round TKO. After escaping Chope's clinch, Holloway began a striking onslaught, eventually dropping the Kill with powerful hooks and finishing him off with some brutal ground strikes. The UFC handed out a knockout of the night bonuses at the time, and Holloway returned home with that extra check in hand. It's safe to say that he continued that momentum in the years that followed, embarking on a winning run that spanned 13 fights and included Holloway's undisputed title win over Jose Aldo at UFC 212. Max Holloway's dream UFC fight for 2026. Holloway already has a big assignment in the calendar for 2026 as he gears up to defend the symbolic BMF title for the second time. After ensuring that Dustin Poirier would not end his career with a win, another rematch lies ahead for the Blessed. Holloway will run it back with Charles Oliveira in the main event of UFC 326 on March 7th. In addition to his own exploits inside the octagon, the Hawaiian fan favorite will have his eyes on the other big matchups this year, and he hopes that includes a heavyweight super fight. The UFC's Instagram account recently posted a number of answers from top fighters who were asked to choose their dream fight for 2026. Despite Dana White dismissing talk of it taking place at the White House in June, Holloway chose a clash between GOAT contender Jon Jones and current light heavyweight champion Alex Pereira. Gable Steveson explains what makes Islam Makhachev and Khamzat Chimaev's MMA wrestling so dominant. Islam Makhachev and Khamzat Chimaev both used their ground game to win gold in 2025. A number of UFC titles changed hands in the second half of last year, including the middleweight and welterweight championships. Chimaev dominated Dricus du Plessis at UFC 319 in Chicago, racking up over 21 minutes of control time to take the South African's 185-pound belt. A few months later, Makhachev outpointed Jack Della Maddalena in large part down to his 19 minutes of control time to become the new 170-pound king at UFC 322 in New York City. Both stars have consistently been able to completely shut down their opponent's offense, and Gable Steveson does not think his nation's wrestlers have been able to do the same. Gable Steveson breaks down Islam Makhachev and Khamzat Chimaev's superiority over American wrestlers. Steveson is an Olympic gold medalist in freestyle wrestling who is early into his career as a professional mixed martial artist. He recently appeared on the Joe Rogan Experience to preview a year in which he hopes to find himself under the UFC banner. The 25-year-old is being tipped for a fast rise to the heavyweight title, and Steveson plans to fulfill those predictions by adapting his wrestling style to MMA in the same way that Makhachev and Chimaev have. In the UFC right now, the guys that are dominating and winning are kind of putting their wrestling base first, but making it MMA wrestling, Steveson said. I feel like when a lot of D1 wrestlers come to MMA, they kind of don't make the switch of how to take the right shot, and how to finish the right shot, and how to use your feet to trip their feet out on the cage, and if you get stuck in a guillotine, how do you move from that spot? You see the guys that are doing it the best, the Islams, the Khamzats, are really going out there and attacking and making sure that people understand, hey, you've got to fear this, and next I'm gonna come with the hands. That's the biggest thing we're working on now, he added. Gable Steveson has shown what he can do with his hands in MMA. While there's little doubt about the wrestling edge that Steveson will have over the entire heavyweight field should he find himself under the UFC banner in 2026, he's been making a statement with his fists in recent months. The American star needed just 98 seconds to win his debut in the cage last September. And after a 15-second win in his dirty boxing debut, Steveson returned to MMA with a 25-second knockout under the Anthony Pettis FC banner in November. One of Steveson's performances came in front of UFC matchmaker Mick Maynard, and many expect MMA's leading promotion to soon add the elite wrestler to its roster. The 25-year-old is already making plans for that arrival this year. After a few more fights on the regional scene, Steveson wants to debut at UFC White House, a celebratory event in Washington, D.C. set for June 14th. UFC is told this Islam Makhachev superfight needs to happen by the champion's former rival. Calls for the UFC to book this huge matchup are continuing. Islam Makhachev remains without his first welterweight title defense on the calendar following his title triumph at Madison Square Garden last November. After vacating the lightweight throne, Makhachev dominated Jack Della Maddalena at UFC 322 to become the 11th two-division champion in the promotion's history. The Dagestani has a host of hungry contenders pushing for a shot in his new weight class, but Della Maddalena thinks a clash against the champion of his former division is the fight that absolutely needs to happen. Jack Della Maddalena predicts Islam Makhachev would beat Ilia Topuria in must-book fight. Talk of a super fight between Makhachev and Ilia Topuria has existed ever since El Matador reached the featherweight mountaintop and announced his multi-weight plans. Topuria accused Makhachev of running away when he relinquished the 155-pound title, which the Spaniard later claimed by knocking out Charles Oliveira at International Fight Week. The fight could still be on the cards given Topuria's plan to make history as a three-division champ, but his hiatus has paused that talk for the time being. Regardless, Della Maddalena still mentioned it as a fight that the UFC must eventually book while recently appearing on streamer N3's YouTube channel. "I think Islam will win," Della Maddalena said. "Ilia is good, but I just reckon the size would be a lot. But then again, Ilia is a heavy puncher," he continued. "If he can keep it on the feet and land punches, it'd be a good fight. It needs to happen." Jack Della Maddalena believes he would beat Ilia Topuria. More than just predicting Topuria to fall short against the current welterweight kingpin, Della Maddalena would also back himself to get the better of the lightweight champ at 170 pounds. The Australian was widely tipped to present a sterner test than he did when Makhachev moved up. Despite failing to mount much offense, Della Maddalena's confidence has not been dented. And against a knockout artist with a clear penchant for striking, the former champ thinks he would have the edge. "Me and Ilia? I reckon I would get him," Della Maddalena told N3 during the same video.